Down to the blocks with Chris Young and Tom Crawford here at the Grand Traverse Pie Company on a Tuesday morning. Beautiful sunny Tuesday morning, and it's just rare, and 60 degrees. But hey, we're getting an early start. We want to talk Michigan basketball. We love Michigan basketball. The former player, the former number 45 for the Wolverines out of Detroit Catholic Central. But man, it's been tough to talk about, and thank God, probably Wednesday night, 11 o'clock. This nightmare is over with, you think? Michigan losing to Penn State? Not that we want that to happen, but that's probably the way it's going to play out.
That's probably the way it's going to play out. But if you look at the seeding that Michigan got, yeah, of course they're the last seed in the Big Ten, but you look at who they have to play, I mean, they could realistically win 2 games and they're playing Nebraska again, which is about the most ridiculous thing of this entire season. Yeah. But you don't count them out yet. Like, yeah, they're probably going to lose to Penn State, but they could come out and just absolutely play gangbusters, be like, oh, we got absolutely nothing to lose. You never know. Or they could come out and lay an egg and be down 20 at half, and that's the season.
You thought it was quiet at Chrysler Arena, and it was quiet as Chrysler Arena I've been in, like, forever, since 1967, my first game down there in the first year. But Penn State, of all Big Ten teams in the Big Ten tournament, and I've been going to a ton of Big Ten tournaments. I'm not going this year, not because Michigan's bad. I just don't want to go to Minneapolis. They draw less than anybody.
Yes.
But that's just the way it is with basketball in Penn State. Yeah, as far as going to the Big Ten tournament.
Well, even at home, they don't draw a whole heck of a lot.
Yeah, that end zone is always those blue seats.
Yeah,
it looks like they have the wrapper still on from when they built that thing.
Exactly, yeah.
So, I mean, Michigan fans, even there'll be a lot of there's alumni everywhere. You think... I just don't think there's anybody going to be in the stands at 9 o'clock in that second game.
I mean, how do you justify spending the money to go to a game?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe it's your one opportunity of the season to see them live, but the product they're putting out there.
That's true. The product doesn't entice.
I know a handful of people that live in Minnesota, and they're not going to the game. They've watched a couple games on TV, and these are former players that aren't going to the game because they just don't have any interest in going and watching the product they're putting out there.
Yeah, the aftermarket for, the SeatGeek, whatever the platform in Michigan uses to step up. I'm not sure what it is. It was going $1 for the Nebraska game at Chrysler, $1 seats, even in really good seats.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's
okay, we're sitting here, like I said, Tuesday morning, here in the corner of Hagedorn and Grand River. I think 2 mornings from now, like Thursday morning, we're going to find out the fate of this Michigan basketball program. And I mean, everybody's got their. There was a survey of Michigan fans, and I'm not sure what platform did it, but it was like 87-90% want Juwan Howard gone. Okay, not that they have anything to do with it.
Yeah, but
that's an indication of the discontent.
But to be fair, 5-6 years ago, that was the same number that wanted Harbaugh going. Towards the end of that 19 season, I mean, everybody was up there. The Boo Birds were coming out in the big house, and that's how it was.
Yeah.
A couple little tweaks and fine tuning, and you see where the football program is now. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Juwan comes back next year. But like you said, Thursday morning, we'll know something. We'll know something about the coach, and we'll also see how many of those guys are hitting the portal. Because I think we're losing 2 to 3 guys in the portal.
Well,
right? Right off the bat. Yeah, literally.
That's going to happen right then.
Yeah.
And the other element is, whole situation with Ward Manuel. I still think there's something weird about that going on, about his fate. So I'm speculating, admittedly, but I have some intel. But I'm thinking something's coming down on Thursday morning, and that we're going to know at that time. Season will be over. But you stated Michigan could beat Penn State. Penn State looked pretty good the other night.
Yeah.
But it's just how invested in Michigan is wanting to start this second season, and if there's something going on where the players they're human, they're going to check out. But I'm telling you what, there were some glaring moments of this Nebraska game where defensively it almost looked like they were throwing the game.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't even. Dribble drive penetrate. It was like a layup drill.
Yeah, it really was.
It was a layup drill, but there was not even token defense displayed by Michigan at certain junctures. I'm trying to think what guard was driving, and it was like the seat parted, and everybody just stood and watched.
Yeah, it was Tominaga that just kept going to the bucket. And there was no rotation from the second man.
No, and there was frozen feet that were dug into the hardwood that were not moving.
But that's how they've been for the last,
well,
last
how can
3
that
months.
be? How can that be?
There just hasn't been enough of an emphasis on a day-to-day basis. Like, this is what you have to do. And one of the big problems is that, and this goes up all the way back to the fall before the season even started, and then once the season got rolling, Michigan did fill 2 scholarships.
So starting out, they're
starting out, they're already shorthanded, and so if you have those extra 2 scholarship guys, you can at least say to to Burnett or to Doug or to anybody, like, look, man, if you don't do this, you're not playing. Someone else is coming in.
Sure.
Where we're playing 6 to maybe 7 guys if Yo-Yo plays, and
then you got injuries,
and we got injuries, and it's like,
Collins
okay, everyone's. They're like, we got no one pushing us. We can kind of go out here and do what we want to do. We don't have to necessarily listen to what the coach is saying. We don't have to do this exact defensive scheme because we blow a defensive assignment this time. I can't get pulled because there's no one to take me out.
Yeah, you don't have any element of accountability.
Yeah.
So fear factor of being pulled off the court. And
I do have to say, though, I don't know what was going on with Doug McDaniel in the second half against Nebraska.
17 halftime Zippo in the second half.
And didn't really play a whole lot in the second half. And when he did, he sat for like 7.5 minutes, and then when he came in, he looked very uninterested. So I don't know if there was something was said between him and Juwan or the coaching staff or something like that, and there was some kind of altercation, but he seemed totally checked out in the second half.
Yeah, he disconnected.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this was a 15, 18 point thing from the under 16 timeout in the second half and beyond. It was like 15, 17, 15, 8. It was just...
I think they got to 12 at one point.
12, maybe got to 12.
But there was never any juice behind it.
There was no...
You never felt like there was a chance of like, okay, it's 12, we got to stop, and we can cut this to, under 10 and get something. There was none of that.
It was just sitting there.
Yeah.
And everybody was just like, okay, when's this game going to get over with? I looked around, people were just having conversations. You can hear the squeakiness of the shoes.
Yeah.
On the court, which was crazy. And I
didn't even go down to the game. I'm sitting on my couch watching it, and all the announcers that were calling the game were talking about is whether or not Tominaga could break the Nebraska single game scoring record, which was 42. He didn't end up getting it, but that's for the entire second half. That's all the announcers talked about. Because that was the only interesting thing going on in the game. Because there was
Spinarco was reaching.
Yeah, there was nothing.
Oh no, Spinarco he didn't do it. He was on the Indiana game. I'm not who did. I don't know who did, but regardless.
Yeah, I don't remember who it was, but there was nothing for them to talk about because there was nothing. Everything has been said already about Michigan basketball. Like we all know that their defensive rotations aren't good. They can't guard anybody in a straight line drive to the basket.
And they've had plenty of time. This problem's been going around. I mean, Long Beach State beat, and Long Beach State just fired their coach. McNeese State, I don't think it's going to make the Big Ten the NCAA tournament.
Nope.
I mean, you cannot. I understand the heart attack situation; it was bad, but I mean, you still got to be able. You've been coaching this team for 3 months, and I keep asking the same questions. Where's the status of the buy-in and things like that? And says, well, we'll keep working. It's the same, and I understand you can't really say anything, but man, there's no sense of urgency. There's no sense of pounding the table. This has got to stop. And this is what Michigan fans want to see.
And honestly, Tom, I mean, if you look at it and you think of when Martelli was, the head coach, compared to when Juwan came back and it was kind of that hybrid where they're both up standing, walking the sideline, and then Juwan's sitting on the baseline, and some of the players are talking to Juwan, some are talking to Martelli,
like a peewee game.
Exactly. And then Juwan takes back over. From the time that Juwan was officially back as the head coach, how many wins did we have?
Well, now that Martelli
Maybe 4?
and Martelli just sits and watches.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing else to do. I look at optics on the bench.
Yeah.
Sadi is less engaged than I've ever seen him.
Yep.
They're just there. And
you know what? To some extent, I get it. I played on some teams when I was in Michigan. Like we were not very good.
They were better than this team.
We were better than this team, not by much, but we were better than this team.
We played hard.
The 6 of us or 7 of us that played, we played every possession like it was the last one. We didn't have the most talent to win games, but you never saw any quit in us. You never saw any quit in the staff. Even Ellerby coming into that last 2 weeks of his tenure as coach, he was still fiery on the sideline. He was still trying to get us juiced up in the locker room and stuff like that. I just don't see that.
You see them not trying? What do you see as a player, for a former player? What do you?
The guys that are on the court, they're trying, especially on the offensive side. That's never been a question. It's the defense.
There was a couple ball rotations that were really good.
Yes, there's some offensive things that this team does pretty well, but they don't know when to shoot. They don't know when to pass. They don't know when to dribble the ball. There's no basic understanding of when to do just the absolute basics of the game.
Yeah.
We're putting a little run together, and we come down and immediately shoot a quick three with no one under the basket for an offensive rebound. Okay, let's run right back.
So back to this ISO thing I keep harping on. So there's one high ball screen, and then there's some weave rotation, and then it's just whoever. Okay, we're getting now. It's the shot clock's at 12. Okay, whoever has the ball. Okay, you try to back it. You try to do something off the dribble.
Yep.
And there's no more rotation.
Try and create on your own. Yep.
Yeah, and so what did you accomplish in the first, 20 seconds of the shot clock?
Well,
there's nothing. When you look at those shot clock, you look at those possessions and just, I've done this on my DV and going back, what has been accomplished in those first 20 seconds? Nothing.
What's been accomplished is you've let the defense rest. Because there's a lot of times where, okay, we go up, we set a ball screen with Terrence Reed, with Dougie, and he comes off the screen, he's coming to his right, and we got two Michigan players standing outside the three-point line as close as Tom and I are.
Yeah.
Which makes it real easy for one defender to guard both of them, and another guy buried way the hell deep in the corner, and his guy's all the way over on help side. And then there's just another guy basically playing free safety because he doesn't have a guard anymore.
And that's where a lot of the Michigan State game they were forced to rotate the ball to that wing guy.
Exactly.
And State saw this on film. I mean, and that's where they got 5 steals.
Exactly.
Off the rotation pass.
Yep. Well, and that's just Michigan State understanding the scouting report and playing hard on defense. It's amazing what you can accomplish just getting deflections and touches on balls if you play hard.
Okay, so as a former player, and I've talked to a lot of former players, I mean, communicated, text messages, things like that. I don't know, there's an allegiance. I understand the player allegiance thing. I get that. I want, you're very transparent. What should Michigan do with their head coach for next year?
I mean, honestly, I think it's time to move on from Juwan Howard.
Okay.
I think this year especially has shown the weaknesses in his coaching ability, but I'm not sure that that's what's going to happen.
I'm not talking about what you think is going to happen. I'm asking you what should happen.
I think it's time to move on. I think this year shows that he wasn't able to put this team together the right way. They weren't able to gel as a team. There's been numerous off-the-court problems, whether it's the issue with Sanderson that we still don't know what that whole situation was.
It looks like it's like a buyout hush money thing.
Yeah, your starting point guard has academic problems and is suspended for 6 road games. Like there's too many other things going on. If it was one thing, if it was just off-the-court stuff, and you're still winning, or you're still 500 and you're competitive in games, you can kind of deal with that.
Yeah.
Or if you're winning games and there's none of that going on, it's fine. You can have one of the. You can't have both. You can't have a bad product you're putting on the court and then
off the court problems.
And then off the court problems, and then the players are coming out and calling out the fans. T. Will did that, and when you asked him that question a couple weeks ago, like disappointed in people selling their tickets to Purdue.
But that was a pretty bizarre situation. I mean, that was pretty extreme.
But still,
you
you don't ever call out the fans. Like that's a cardinal sin in any sport at any level.
True.
You don't do that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they've had 3 Big Ten wins. We sat here, the 3rd week of January, we sat here and we were doing the Down on the Blocks podcast, and you said, I see them winning maybe one more Big Ten game. And I was like, Tom, come on, man, you're full of shit. They're going to figure this out and blah, blah, blah. Well, here we are the 2nd week of March, and they won 3 Big Ten games. They've won 2 games in 2024.
Yeah.
And one was the game on MLK where the Fab Five came back and there was all the juice in the building and okay, let's go and blah, blah, blah. And then there was nothing. And then they beat the Wisconsin.
Well, Chris Holtman lost his job maybe from that game.
Yeah. And then they beat that Wisconsin team who the week before that, Wisconsin was a top 5, top 10 team. They lost to Purdue. They lost to Michigan, and man, I don't even know if Wisconsin could put a team on the floor at this point. Like they are just.
But somehow they're
melted down.
Somehow they're still in the tournament.
They're still there.
And they'll probably make some noise. I don't know. Yeah. This Big Ten tournament is crazy. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this has been a painful year, and I care about Michigan I mean, you as a former player, obviously, and you have a sense of ownership, but I mean, I'm one of those rare Michigan fans and alumni that care about as much for Michigan basketball as football, and I'm in the minority, I think, in that.
Yeah.
And even when a winning, bad team versus good team, bad team basketball, good team football. I mean, even if they're the other way around, I'm even Steven on that.
Yeah.
So I think there should be a change.
And I am too. I mean, I was one of those people walking out of the big house after losing to Ohio State a couple years in a row back in the the late teens and talking with people. It's like, well, thank God we're a basketball school. Thank God we're going to Final Fours, and thank God we got Beeline that's really pushing us. And now, okay, everything's flipped. There's got to be a change. There's got to be something that gets his team at least competitive.
Other than Zach Novak, well, I'm just guessing Zach Novak wants Juwan gone.
I'm on a very long text chain with like 20 former players and guys.
What are some of the pulse on the other players that you?
It's not something I can really.
Oh, okay.
It's not. It's that trusted brotherhood thing where we say things in confidence to each other. So I can't really divulge a whole lot, but I mean,
there's
a lot of people that say like, what the fuck is going on?
I know.
What is going on with this coaching staff and with this generation of players that they don't.
So it's a fair statement that there are some former players that are not giving Juwan a complete hall pass.
Oh, 100%.
Okay, and there are some former players, even a couple of years ago, that were frustrated that you've been around.
Yeah.
With what they were seeing. I mean, Michigan was a bubble team too. Everybody keeps talking about that Elite Eight, or not? No, the Sweet 16 was 2 years ago. So that would be in March of 2022, and they had those were two classic wins over Colorado State and Tennessee. And T. Will had a big bucket, and I mean, Frankie Collins came up. I thought Frankie Collins was going to be the future there, and Hunter had a really good game. And wow. That made up, but that was a bubble season.
Yeah,
that season had a lot of frustration.
Yes.
So that's 3 seasons. So that was the first stage of the erosion, if you will, was after the COVID year when they're beating.
Well, that was kind of the end of the real Beeline guys.
Well, Eli
Brooks was still there, the professor, but he was more of a leader than he was like, okay, here, go get a bucket.
That was the last leader.
Yeah,
they had
absolutely,
and the leaders. I've said it. I've said this before. The best, that played for Juwan were. I mean, Xavier Simpson was a Beeline guy. Isaiah Livers was a Beeline guy, and
Eli Brooks.
And Eli Brooks was a Beeline guy. Those were the last 3 leaders, alpha dogs on this team. There's no. I mean, Doug's not a leader.
It looked like he was trying to kind of grow into that role to start the season. It really did. He was the starting point guard. He was scoring a lot. He was doing a lot of different things, trying to lead the team, and then all the academic issues and stuff like that. Well,
that's not good leadership.
Exactly. If the guy that's supposed to be your leader goes down and can't practice and can't play and can't travel and do all this kind of stuff, well, what type of example is that setting for everybody else?
Yeah. And I mean, and let's be real. And you experience this, the academic support system in intercollegiate athletics. I mean, you have to stumble your way to be.
20 years ago, it was unbelievable. I can't even fathom.
I'm not saying they spoon feed you, but they structure it so you can't screw up.
Up until I was a sophomore or junior, until you kind of showed a couple years of, get your grades right and everything like that. Yeah. You had mandatory study table for 2 hours every night.
Yeah.
And for those of you people out there that don't know, study table is you go sit in a room, there's all the tutors, all the resources, anything you could possibly need. You study, you read, you write your papers, you do whatever. And that was 20 years ago.
Wow.
That was before the athlete center that, right next to Weinbach.
Stephen Ross.
Like all that stuff. That none of that was there. This is us sitting in the basketball offices trying to get the stuff figured out.
Yeah,
so,
what a difference facilities are now versus
it's unbelievable.
What you and
the resources that these guys have. And now, as soon as the season ends, whether it's tomorrow or in a month from now, brand new locker room in Chrysler for the men.
That's coming.
Yeah, brand new locker room, a new training table area for them to eat at, like all these different things, because everything was updated 15 years ago or whatever. But now, according to whoever, all that stuff's out of date. So now they're going to spend all this money to bring all the facilities back up to a certain level.
Right.
So everything is handed to these guys. All you have to do is show up and not get in your own way. And Dougie just couldn't figure that out.
He screwed it up. Anyway, he's Chris Young. He brings it. CY always brings it here down the blocks. Chris Young, Tom Crawford here at Grand Traverse Pie Company. We'll connect in a few days again because we probably have something to talk about.
It'll be an interesting couple days.
Until next time, thanks for watching.
Thanks.